screen footage that has been keyed sometimes displays a little extra noise around the edge that's hard to remove using the key light effect alone. However, we can quickly remove noise from the edges of the footage by utilizing something called a garbage mat. Let's check out our project so we can see what we're working with. Move your mouse to the lower right corner of the composition panel just outside the edge, and then hold down the Z key. That'll automatically select the zoom tool. Click and drag to draw a rectangle around this lower right area, and then let go. You can let go of the mouse and let go of the Z key, and press the spacebar to begin playback. And it's very hard to see, but there is noise down here. To see it more clearly, I'm going to press the spacebar to stop playback. Select Layer 1 in the timeline, then go to the Effect Controls, and under the View drop-down menu, change it from Final Result to Screen Mat. There's the noise. If I press the spacebar again for playback, here you can see it a little more clearly, kind of dancing through the scene. I'll press the spacebar to stop playback. To fix this, let's zoom back out in the scene. We can use the comma key, and then the period key, but notice it's not centered. So to quickly center our zoom, hold down the Shift key and the / button. To create the garbage mask, go up to your Shape Tools, and click on the Rectangle tool. If you don't see that, click and hold and make sure you choose the Rectangle tool. Then come down to the timeline and make sure Layer 1 is selected, and then we can just draw a rectangle starting in the upper left corner, down past the lower right. And you want to give a little extra space so you don't accidentally cut off the edges. Press MM on your keyboard, and if you didn't press it fast enough, it may hide everything, so I'll do it one more time, MM. There we go. That will open up the mask feather options. So here I'm going to increase the feather setting to about 20, which is going to give me a soft transition along the edge of my mask. Now I can't see that because I'm in the screen mat view, so let's go ahead and change the view back to Final Result. Now when we press the spacebar for playback, we no longer have that noise in the lower right area. Now as I'm looking at the shot, I'm noticing there is some green screen that's peeking through right here. So I'll press the spacebar to stop playback, because there's a way we can fix this using a garbage mask on another layer. So first, I'll modify this garbage mask. So press the comma key to zoom out, and then go up to your toolbar and click and hold on the pen tool. Select the Add Vertex tool. Then let's add 3 points along this bottom line. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you click directly on the path. And then go back and grab your selection tool from the toolbar. I'll grab this middle anchor point and drag it up. And I'll drag this next one over. And I'll drag this other one over as well. Select Layer 1 and press Ctrl-D to duplicate. If you accidentally clicked on the mask, you may have duplicated the mask, so make sure you've selected Layer 1. Now press M to open the mask for Layer 1, and I'm going to solo this layer. So this is the only layer we're looking at. So click the Solo button here on the left side of the interface, and I want to change this mask. I'll first delete this old one, so click on the words Mask Path and press Delete. I just want this one area back in over top of the other footage. So I'll go back up to my Shape Tools here, and I'll just grab the Rectangular Shape tool because that's close enough, and I'll click and drag a rectangle around this one area. Press V on your keyboard to grab your selection tool, click outside of the mask to deselect, and here I can just click on this lower left one if I want to bring that point a little further over. Okay, let's turn off Solo for the moment, and you'll notice we have this over top, which is fine. It's not much of a difference, but if I toggle the visibility off and on, you can see this is where the green area is on Layer 1. So what's great about this is now I can go in and adjust some settings in the Screen Mat option. So under Screen Mat, I'll choose Screen D-Spot Black, and I'll set it to 0 and press Enter, and now I get the colors back in that image. Just to make sure that everything is nice and smooth, I'll press MM, and again MM, there we go, and I'll just add, say, a 5-point feather on this mask. So when we click off of everything to deselect and then press the space bar to begin playback, you can see we've cleaned up the edges over here and we've cleaned up the edges here. We've utilized 2 different garbage mats. One cut off the majority of the extra stuff, and then the other one we just used to fill back in with other settings for a new key light layer. Create drama in a shot is by retiming your video footage. In this tutorial, we're going to explore some different ways to retime video in After Effects, and specifically we're going to focus on 3 methods: interpret footage, time stretch, and time remap. Let's start by opening the 01 retime interpret footage composition in the project panel. So double click on it, and you'll notice in the timeline I have a piece of footage that's 59.94 frames a second. But with the composition selected, you can see up here the composition is 29.97 frames per second. If I press the spacebar to play back, you notice it's playing in real time. By default, After Effects will render at the composition's frame rate settings. So if I want this footage to play back more slowly, I need to change it somewhere else. I'll press the spacebar to stop playback and open the footage folder in the project panel. Select the juggle video file that's in there and press Ctrl-D on Windows or Command-D on the Mac to duplicate. Let's right-click on the new duplicate copy and go to Interpret Footage, Main. Under Frame Rate, let's enable Conform to Frame Rate and change it to 29.97, which is half of 59.94. Go to the bottom and click OK. Now, let's rename this clip. Press Enter, and then we'll rename the end of it 29.97 and press Enter. Let's see what this looks like. Drag the video clip to the top of the layer hierarchy in that timeline, and sure enough, now it's 30 seconds long. If I press the space bar, it's going to take a second to load up the frames, and then there we go. It's playing back at half speed. The beauty in this is the fact that After Effects isn't having to create any additional frames out of thin air. It's just playing each individual frame since we shot it at 59.94 and we're only playing it back at half the speed. I'll press the spacebar to stop playback. Let's open the 02 Retime Time Stretch composition. Double-click on it in the project panel and select Layer 1. Right-click on Layer 1, or Control-click if you're on the Mac, and go up to the Time settings and choose Time Stretch. My favorite thing about Time Stretch is its ability to specify duration. So go to New Duration, and let's set this to 20 seconds. So if I type 2000, that's 20 seconds long, and the retime will start at the layer in point, which is exactly what I want, and I'll click OK. If you press the space bar, it's going to go ahead and load up those frames. Now notice it's playing back more slowly. I'll press the space bar to stop playback. Let's go back to the project panel and double-click on the 03 Retime Time Remap composition. Go down to the timeline and select Layer 1, and you can right-click on the layer or Control-click if you're on the Mac, and go to Time and choose Enable Time Remapping. Immediately, you'll get two keyframes. What these keyframes record is that frame at that specific point in time. So if I move my current time indicator to about 4 seconds in the timeline, I'll say 4:01. And I go over to the left side of the timeline and click the Add Keyframe button here between my two navigation arrows. I have now locked that point in time to this keyframe. So if I want the first 4 seconds to play back over 2 seconds, I'll just drag this to the left. And now when I go back to the beginning and press the space bar, you can see she's going to be playing back much more quickly and then slow down afterward. To get a visual representation of this remap, I'll press the space bar to stop playback, click on the words Time Remap in the timeline, and then enable the graph editor. Go to the second button from the left in the bottom of the timeline and click on that, and I want you to choose Edit Value Graph. Here, I get a graphic representation as to how the retime is working. Now let's see what happens if we move the keyframes here in the value graph. Click on the second keyframe and drag it up. And indeed, it is changing the value of that keyframe. Now it's going to play the first 6 seconds of video in the first 2 seconds. Let's investigate the steepness of the line. If I move my current time indicator back to the beginning and press the space bar, the steeper the line, the faster the footage. The more flat the line, the slower the footage. Now I'll press the space bar to stop playback and just grab this third keyframe and drag it down. And you can see the line is now going in a downwards fashion. When I press the spacebar now, you can see it's definitely playing backwards. So if you're lucky enough to be involved in the production process, whenever you know you want to slow footage down, it's always wise to shoot at a higher frame rate. The more frames you have equal greater flexibility during post-production.